और मारा तो कहीं गरिया मारा मेरे वैसा नहीं तो
नहीं दे
ससुरा पनावती रहा काला कोबरा देखने वाटे मार लेकिन आगे सारा पड़े
तो हम
हाँ
एक चोटी मारल थी
कि मार ले ठीक
लिट्टी
घुमाए रहे
नहीं वो एल्डी हम साथ लोग वाले हम हाथ में खिला ली सब एक्चुअली हम गाड़ी पाती में मामा से हाथ में पकड़ के दिखा टिका मामा ही कौन साहब हो अरे हम गरी यही लको काट लेता हो कहीं
इतना बड़ा ही भी हाल है तू
गरी मामा ही कौन साहब हो
वाह
तो हम तो छोड़ा ले जो तुम टाको से झटका दे ना उसके बाद काटल ऑर्डर की नहीं गई काटता तो मर जीता के गरी याद रहेगा मामा
तेरा ना पवारा साफ हो जाते
ये तो नहीं चला यार
लेकिन सास नागिन नागिन सांप जो कहा नहीं है ऐसे इतने खून रहा थे यार इतने खून लेकिन उसी फन अनुकूल रहा ना एक अंगुरी उतना लंबा रहा था
सड़ा बहुत खतरा बन गया
और ये एक अंगुरी उतना रहा लेकिन ऐसे फन अनुकूल रहा था यार
सड़ा उधर मुड़िया कुत्ती लाना को वाली बच्चा डाल
कहते हमन मानसर निकल गया हम मटियारी साहब खिलाते का
to the tent, and what a decision that was from Max O'Dowd to keep on Klein, and what a ball, angled in, just straightens, clips the edge. This has been a terrific little period of bowling.
Unbelievable, Carl Klein. He just keeps doing it. And Munsey, who looks so good, he's undone by the angle and one maybe just bursting through the surface of touch. Scotland are going to have to do it tough from here. Two of their big guns are back in the hutch. Munsey falls for 26. It's 43 for 3.
ये तो एक अच्छा एडवेंचर है।
अच्छा नहीं
अंडरवेयर चाहिए अंडर
Pressure on Scotland.
I'm going to destroy
The Dutch, well, they don't often play 2 or 3 consecutive poor matches. They were pretty poor 2 days ago. Here's the dismissal again. Look at this. Oh, an absolute beauty. Unplayable, really, from Klein. Angling in, maybe hit the deck and seamed away. Nothing Munsey can do about that. And a good catch held by Noah Cross.
Yeah, it was really an absolute peach of a ball, that one. Not much Munsey could do about that. I'm not sure there's much anyone could do about that. It brings Finlay McCreath to the crease. The newest players really in the Scotland side, impressed in Zimbabwe, kind of pre-season tour.
It was that weight of runs there that kind of forced his way into the team, and gets off the mark with a beautiful clip off his legs. That'll race to the rope. Klein looking for the stumps, maybe just getting a touch over enthusiastic, and it flies to the boundary for 4.
Oh, it's a lovely little shot. You know that I have a thing for a little flamingo flick. Usually it comes from Brandon McMullen, but if Finlay McCreath wants to get in on the flamingo action, I'm all for it. I love that little flourish. That's a terrific shot to get off the mark. So Finlay McCreath, first half century for Scotland in a game against Nepal. Before that, in the Netherlands, he'd kind of made contributions, hadn't he, Lenny? A few innings in the 30s over there. But then having made that half century, this is a good opportunity for him again, as it was in the game a few days ago, just to kind of cement his side. Someone new coming in, weight of runs, made contributions, first half century. What a time this would be for him to make another big contribution with the captain.
It played really nicely throughout. His first few games, he's just looked a bit cautious early in his innings, but that's actually what's required today. So maybe it's a tailor-made situation for him. Spend some time, get in at the crease, don't worry about the run rate too much. And again, with Munsey now dismissed, I know he's good against spin, but it's the off breaks of Arjan Dutt and the left arm spin of Roelof van der Merwe on a day that's looking very much like a seamer's day already, where maybe those 20 overs will be overs to target 2, particularly with the 2 right-handers at the crease. So I don't know if the Dutch got their team selection wrong. I know Vikramjit Singh can bowl a few medium pacers. Levitt's going to be called upon probably to bowl all 10 again today. But they only have 2 kind of out-and-out proper full medium fast-paced bowlers, or in one case very fast, Paul van Meekerens. Vivian Kingma being left out in a day like today, I don't think there's anything wrong with them. Really, really interesting call, particularly on a fresh pitch. If this was the 3rd use of that pitch from the first 2 games, you'd understand it. Fresh pitch, a lot of grass on it, only 2 out-and-out seamers.
Well, and the thing is, we've seen the ball doing something off the pitch. Not just that last absolutely terrific ball from Klein, but Van Meekeren as well. We saw him getting the ball to nip about a bit. So Yeah, it is a really interesting call, and just how they manage that fifth bowler, how much they get out of Levitt, how much they get out of the others. I think you're right. It's a really interesting one, Lenny.
But also, Mel, if you're Max O'Dowd, your prime asset here is Kyle Klein, the man with the ball in his hand. He's bowled 5 now. He's halfway through his spell. End of the first power play. Dutch slightly ahead, having found those 3 wickets. 48 for 3, the score. But what do? Do you go one more and say we've got to get a 4th now because we might have misread the conditions? We might have needed an extra seamer. Now, never seen this before. You'd expect Scott Edwards to be very heavily involved. A reminder that that is not a little bit of Bob Woolmer and Hansi Cronje for those who've got a really good memory. He's not talking to anyone on the field, but Scott Edwards, right past our commentary position, just keeping in communication with the coaching staff back in the dugout, and he's absolutely entitled to run his drinks as a 12th man today. Fascinating to see that, isn't it? A little bit of innovation from the Dutch.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think if I have ever seen that before.
Who made the trip to the shop to get the couple of walkie-talkies for the Dutch?
I didn't see an electronics shop in Brodie Ferry, but they're staying in Dundee, aren't they?
But basically what that is there is Scotty Edwards is very much the leader of this team. I know he's not in the 11 today. He's entitled to run his drinks. He's running some messages out and around, and then he's just keeping in communication with the coaching staff in terms of what messaging to get across. Always like to see a bit of innovation. If you're wondering about the incident, I think it was the 99 World Cup, wasn't it? Or just before it, Bob Woolmer and Hansi Cronje, the head coach and captain of South Africa, they sent Cronje with an earpiece in. Bob Woolmer was giving him instructions, and the ICC had an absolute fit, didn't they? And rightly so, because you can't do that. You can't have player communications on the field, but off the field, that's absolutely okay.
Yes, I was in Bengaluru when the infamous Steve Smith and dressing room gate, when he just looked up at in the direction of the dressing room when he was trying to work out whether or not to review a decision, and that was a massive no-no.
Oh, going to be 5 wides. Poor delivery from Levitt. And you feel a bit for Noah Crozier being unsighted, not able to get across quickly enough. The 50 comes up. This policy of only picking 4 out and out bowlers from the Dutch, it's a really interesting one. And Levitt already expensive.
Yeah, that has definitely spoiled his figure early. That was so wide. There was absolutely nothing Crows could have done about that.
One of the great innovators, wasn't he, Bob Woolmer? What a tragic loss he was. And my memory is still working. There's some grey matter up there. It was the 1999 World Cup. And Bob Woolmer had been inspired by what he'd seen in American sports. It's actually part of the regulations. You're allowed to have, in NFL in particular, a headset built into your helmet, and the offensive or defensive coordinator, the head coach, can get across their messages as to what play they want to call to the quarterback or to the captain of the defensive side, the linebacker, whoever it is. And I was in the opening game for South Africa playing India at Hove in May. Amazing to think South Africa played India at Hove of all grounds.
Good grief.
He was doing the schedules back
Wow.
then. Mohamed Azharuddin won the toss and batted, and when Cronje led his side onto the field, both him and Alan Donald, I actually don't remember Alan Donald having had it, both him and Alan Donald had earpieces in their ears, and it didn't take long for the television commentators, we always spot these things, don't we, to notice what was going on. And Saurav Ganguly, who opened for India with Sachin Tendulkar, noticed and brought it to the attention of the 2 umpires at the drinks break and said, what's going on here? He cried foul to the headmasters at Sarah Ganguly. The umpire spoke to Cronje. He was quite open about what they were doing. Problem was the umpires didn't know whether it was legal or not, and they asked the match referee Talat Ali for a ruling. He too was unsure, as it had never happened before. Contacted the ICC. As the drinks came out, so did the match. Ali onto the field and said, guys, they've got to go. Get rid of these earpieces. So it was only for whatever, 15, 16, 17 overs. South Africa went on to win the match, and afterwards Bob Bulmer was unrepentant. He said, all I was trying to do was to give help and advice. I'm sorry if I upset anyone. I was trying to be innovative. Where we did err was I didn't ask the ICC in advance. And
What do they say? Better to beg forgiveness than ask permission?
well, yes, kind of how I operate.
I know.
Plenty of those moments for me. And then Clive Hitchcock, maybe the ICC's longest standing employee, he said the position was made clear to all teams at the start of the tournament. They can't experiment with anything like this. As Arjan Dutt into the attack for the first time. And yeah, basically the response from the ICC was that they formally put into their regulation that they banned the use of all such technology in any way. And then a message was sent out to all the participating teams that they weren't to use that in any way, shape or form. But it was interesting, right the way up to his death, his tragic early death, Bob Woolmer said that he believed it was wrong, and that he believes technology should be the way to go forward, and that cricket should be open to the innovation of it. Hasn't kind of sparked back since then. I've seen some of the dugouts, you see numbers and messaging, don't you?
You saw that with Owen Morgan used that a lot with England.
Colours as well, you see.
The World Cup, yeah.
There's a blue and a 3 and you're going, what does that mean? The one update the playing conditions have had, though, is this is tickled round the corner. Van Meekeren chases after it. Just get there, but it will be an easy 3. They have updated the playing conditions to allow the head coach or assistant coaches to come out of the drinks breaks, or in the case of some of the T20 franchise leagues, the strategic timeouts, as they'll call them. So maybe that's kind of the middle ground solution. What do you think? Would you like to see it? Would the captain be allowed to talk to the coach in the outfield?
Oh, I'm going to have to think about that. One thing I love about cricket is that as I go through for a single, it's one sport where the captain of field, they have a much bigger impact than most other sports on the field, and I sort of like that. But having said that, I don't really see anything wrong with it. The Steve Smith in Bengaluru case is very different. You shouldn't be able to communicate when it comes to like asking if you should review. Get another single. So that's a very different thing. I suppose do you have to make a blanket for an entire game because reviews do come into it, and that might be a bit of a sticking point because that's we have to be very careful
that's
about
a great point, isn't it? With DRS in place.
Yes.
What's the head coach going to do? Pinky promise that he won't tell him
Yeah,
to
exactly.
review or not. No, look.
So that's probably, I think, the biggest impediment.
I adored and adore Bob Woolmer for everything he gave to our game. For those who've never read it, who are really into their cricket, whether you're a coach or not, I cannot recommend enough reading the entire full book, The Art and Science of Cricket by Bob Woolmer. End of the 12th, 61. There's an entire chapter on the mental side of the game, which I cannot explain how much it affected my coaching and my playing and my understanding of the game. I wish I'd read it when I was 21 instead of 31, being frank. Amazing man who brought so much adored in South Africa and Pakistan and in Warwickshire and all around the world. But I think I very much agree with you, Mel. I don't think it should be allowed, and obviously we're only bringing attention to it. What Scott Edwards is doing is absolutely legal.
Yes.
That's
fine.
Off the pitch. That's no problem. But just interesting to see that little bit of innovation is beautiful flowing drive through the covers, slightly catchable again, just as signs that pitch isn't quite coming on. But yeah, I'd agree with you. I don't think it should be allowed, and I don't think it ever will be.
Well, there's even been, so for example, in Australia, when they started bringing on the player mics, that's been a huge part of the Big Bash, having the players mic'd up, and even at times there's been a bit of a grey area where there's been communication between the players and the commentators.
No, that's good.
And even at times, just sometimes it's like, oh, that's maybe getting a little bit close to the information that's flowing between the two. And so I'm not saying that they've done anything wrong, but it's just something that broadcasters have had to be very, very aware of as well.
Yeah, I think for me, from the broadcast innovation perspective and adding to the fans' experience and access, you look at that series, the
भोलि
test
नेपालको गेम हुन्छ क्या भोलि पनि
with
लाइभ
Australia,
बस्ने
their test team
अनि
on
आउँछन्
Amazon Prime
अडियन्सहरू
Sport, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just the third season came out over the summer.
And all of a sudden, I'm going to use sexy on air again because we were talking about the Dutch playing sexy cricket. Cricket was made to look very sexy, wasn't it? And tough and just how difficult and extreme the sport is. And sadly, for a variety of reasons, we don't get the same scale of access in our sport that other sports do, particularly the American sports. You look at the NFL films for anyone who's into anything regarding American football. That's clobbered away. Great shot. All the way for 6. Smashes into the scoreboard. That's the shorter side of the ground. It's 59 metres today. You cannot bowl that length, Michael Levitt. And Berrington is never going to miss out on that.
Well, Richie Berrington, as I mentioned a couple of days ago, his sweet spot's the square of the wicket. Offside, onside, he'll pull, he'll cut, he'll sweep, and he'll find that short boundary if you give him anything to work with.
Great shot. Really good shot. Slashed away for a single. So, yeah, the reason the test was so good and it made cricket look so sexy and interesting, 70 for 3 after 13, was because of the fact they had literally a cameraman embedded with that squad with 100% access. Close to 24/7. There was nothing that was off limits. Yes, it inspired a few memes, particularly Justin Langer trashing a bin and then picking the stuff up and putting it back in.
Still my favourite bit.
Oh, fantastic. And the variety of expletives that came out of some of the Australian batters' mouths as they were collapsing, whether it was in Abu Dhabi or in England. That's what people want to see. They want to see the inner workings of a team and of the sport. And I have to say, I think cricket is ripe for more of that. I think the stories of these associate cricketers that we're telling in our way are ripe for that kind of coverage. I think if people understood what some of these associate players go through during COVID, Paul van Meekeren was very vocal about the fact that he was working as an Uber Eats driver. That was the only way he could survive during that period. We've seen a multiplicity of players from Scotland not be available for work reasons, some retiring early like Preston Mompson for career opportunities. Gavin Main is not in this squad because he's got to work. He's going to try and play the T20s because they're on home soil and manage those through holiday days. They're great stories that, So I think from a broadcast perspective, I'd love to see more and more and more innovation. I'm all for it, and from a coverage perspective. But I think from a playing perspective, to round out the point about the earpieces that we're talking about with Bob Wilmer and Hansi Cronje, yeah, definitely the right call that's not allowed.
Tell you what, Lenny, I would be quite happy to. We need to start our own film production company, and we'll embed camera operators with some of these associate teams.
Tell you the one that will be brilliant this year. All of those T20 World Cup qualifiers would be great, but that new East Asia Pacific Asia qualifier, 9 teams playing out for 3 spots. Obviously Nepal's fans and colour, the story of this kind of new generation of Oman trying to get back to the World Cup again. UAE looking for a bit of revenge and all of their brilliant form in T20 cricket. Samoa, wait till you hear the story of Samoa as well. Japan, Papua New Guinea trying to, from the EAP regions, say, hold on, you're not taking our spot away from us. We don't want to just send 1 team to the World Cup, we want to send 2 and maybe leave a bit of egg on faces of some of the people who are involved in that decision. That's going to be a cracking tournament.
We're not quite sure what the format is for that one.
3x3, definitely.
It is 3x3.
From there, TBC, but I think it's into a Super
Right.
6.
Okay.
But it's definitely, it's not a one group, so that will probably add to the drama.
And when is that one?
I think it's October, just announced a couple of days ago, October 8th, I think. As the slog sweep comes out, Fielder out there, and he's picked him out. And Arjan Dutt has managed to get the big wicket of Richie Berrington, who falls to one of his strengths, the slog sweep. Nidamanoru gets the catch. The Dutch are up and about.
Well, he's picked the wrong side, Richie Berrington. He's hitting to the long boundary and into the wind, and that shot is such a strength of his, but he's really battling against all the elements.
सम्राट बात कर रहा हूँ। ये मैच का विनर मैंने अपने टेलीग्राम पर दे दिया है, लंबी भी दे दी है, 10 ओवर का सेशन भी दे दिया है, सब कुछ अपने टेलीग्राम पर दे दिया है। 20 ओवर का भी सेशन करेंगे, 30 ओवर का भी करेंगे, लंबी भी करेंगे, सब कुछ अपने टेलीग्राम पे करेंगे। लिंक कमेंट बॉक्स में है। कमेंट बॉक्स में देखो, ब्लू कलर का टेलीग्राम का लिंक आपको दिख जाएगा। ये मैच की सारी एंट्री हम टेलीग्राम पर दे रहे हैं, और 10 ओवर का दे दिया, लंबी दे दी, मैच विनर दे दिया। अब सारे सेशन आपको टेलीग्राम पर मिलेंगे। लिंक कमेंट बॉक्स में है ब्लू कलर का। तो गलती मत करना, ये मैच में गलती करोगे तो हारोगे, सिंपल सी बात है। श्योर रिपोर्ट चाहिए, हमारे टेलीग्राम पर टोटल फ्री सेवा। सम्राट बात कर रहा हूँ। ये मैच का विनर मैंने अपने टेलीग्राम पर दे दिया है, लंबी भी दे दी है, 10 ओवर का सेशन भी दे दिया है, सब कुछ अपने टेलीग्राम।
And then find a way to try and defend that.
And just reminding what a time it is to bring back the Netherlands' own big gun, and that is Paul van Meekeren. Now he's got Matt Cross fresh at the crease. Finlay McCreath is scratched around a little bit for 17 balls for his 9 runs. And I tell you what, Scott Edwards is working on that walkie-talkie like nothing else at the moment. he's very interested in what's going on out there. He's watching his team get themselves into a pretty good position.
Big wicket, that one. You just feel as though, just as a fourth wicket partnership was building up, and I like the aggressive captaincy from Max O'Dowd. He's only got 20 overs of proper pace to work with today, and he's going to really try and capitalise upon it. Might just be a 2 over, 3 over burst at most from Paul van Meekeren, but get Scotland 5 or 6 down, they could take the game with them.
And we did see both Cross and McCreath make valuable contributions in getting a score up that was defendable, even though it wasn't successful in the end against Nepal in the first match. So now these two have to step up again. And Scotland can't always rely on their big three. They can't just do that. So look on it as an opportunity for Matt Cross again. As you say, he's been in pretty good form, and McCreath in trying to establish himself in this Scotland side.
They'll be pleased they've got the experience across here at 6. But again, it's really, yes, there's lots of all-round skills at 7, 8 and 9, but it's just the bowlers to come for Scotland technically. Probably be Watt at 7, you would imagine.
Well, also, as we've discussed, Michael Leask has...
Sorry, probably Leask at 7 and Watt at 8.
Leask has not been in the runs. He's just struggled with the bat a bit. Again, he was out early in the first match that Scotland played in this round. And,
lovely drive, flowing through the covers, will race to the rope. Just a push. At Van Meekeren's pace, that's all you need to do, and Cross will get off the mark in some style.
Yeah, it's a lovely stroke. Such a busy, almost fidgety player when he's at the crease, but still when he plays it. That's a lovely shot from Cross. You know, and for me, Michael Leask is he's someone you want coming out to bat at a particular time, as far as overs remaining goes.
There might actually be a case to send Mark Watt in.
I could see that for that reason.
Yeah, like if the 5th wicket falls in the next sort of 10 or 15 overs, let's say. And that could be a good option, because it would mean that, you know, Leask would be batting for maybe 10, 15 overs rather than 25 or 30. Interesting little skirmishes here between these two sides. They're great rivals. Most of them are pretty good friends off the pitch, but really is no quarter given when they come up against each other. And I think the Dutch will have hurt from that defeat in Utrecht. Scotland will argue they should have beaten them twice. It was a 19-run margin of defeat in the VRA grounds, the first game of two between these two sides last month in the series that included the United Arab Emirates as well. They were on the back end of a couple of very close decisions, let's put it that way. Good strong lead from Cross. And then the way in which they beat the Dutch in that final game of the series, 380, record ODI score, going past the total they made against England, Scotland, that famous day in the Grange. It was as good a quality of associate cricket as I've ever seen, associate v associate, that is.
The other thing to think about too is we've spoken in the other games about, and you've mentioned it today, about the players that Scotland are missing, the players that Netherlands are missing. When you look at the quality, Lenny, across the two sides, do they kind of cancel each other out when you look at the players missing from both sides?
Good length again, beats the attempted prod from Paul van Makeren's pace. Cross is beaten, and it's going to get us to the end of the first session. We've got a little surprise, a guest commentator coming up for you straight after this, so don't go anywhere too far. We'll have a 5-minute break in the commentary box. It's 77 for 4.
क्या है इनकी क्रिकेट
Welcome back after the first drinks break into the second session of this first innings. And the Dutch very much on top and looking good. Men in orange rarely have a couple of bad games in a row. They had a pretty poor game 2 days ago. Nepal outclassed them and outthought them throughout that contest. The Dutch are bouncing back in their bright orange. Big opportunity for Finlay McCreath early into his international career. Most of the positions he came in during that tour of the Netherlands last month, there was usually something of a platform to work with. Today it's anything but, and this will be the most highly pressured situation that he'll have played in thus far. Matthew Cross is there with him, the vice captain. I did promise you a guest voice, so looking forward to bringing you that at the end of this over. Dutch won the toss this morning early and chose to have a bowl first. I think both captains are looking to bowl. It's a fresh pitch. We're on to pitch number 6 here at the Fort Hill venue. Beautiful surrounds of the Forfarshire CC grounds. The Dutch maybe right now are thinking they possibly picked the wrong 11. They only have 2 out and out first choice seamers. Vivian Kingma surprisingly left out. Still no opportunity for the potential debutant Ben Fletcher of the VRA club, left armour. Oh, now was this half a chance? Arjen Dutt thinks it was. Zach Lyon Cachet put down a critical drop. In the previous game, did this carry to Vikramjit Singh? Not easy because it went very, very low. Oh, I think that's a chance. And I think certainly not an easy one, but Singh, who's replaced Lyon Cachet, remember they're robbed of their usual slip fielder because Noah Kroos would be in there every time. He'll often challenge you on the outside edge, Arjen Dutt, because he just skids it on. Big moment in the contest as Matthew Cross has a life. 16 bowled, 80 for 4. Just get a quick look at the batting card before I introduce my guest commentators. We see there is batting to come all the way down to Safian Sharif, more than capable at number 10. Jack Jarvis, he will gradually work his way up the order in years to come, but delighted to have a bit of fresh company in the commentary box. Andrew Leonard here, and I'm going to introduce you to Liam Sweeney. Liam, one of the 2 gents who runs the Halfway Up Middle podcast, is Scottish cricket's only podcast. Liam, is that fair to say? A very good morning to you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. It is one of the few podcasts covering Scottish cricket, but yeah, probably the most longest running. And
good.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks very much.
Yeah, great to have you with us as the sun comes back out, as I'm getting further reinforcements in terms of warmth brought to me. It has been chilly. You'd expect nothing less from the second most northerly ODI ground in the world. Only Aberdeen up north of us here that is further north, but there is some good sunshine today. Definitely the best of the 3 days. Yeah, for those who want to check out the Halfway Up Middle podcast, do give them a follow there on Twitter. They get some really entertaining coverage of games as well as the actual. It's weekly, the podcast you do, is it?
We try and keep weekly, and we're maybe fortnightly is what we
Weekly
what
in
we
season,
guarantee.
maybe.
Yeah, yeah. And we have so much to talk about in Scottish cricket, which is what we kind of all enjoy getting involved in. Matthew Parker should have mentioned as well as fleets in and out as he's available as well, and kind of gives a more kind of professional look, having obviously played for Scotland and played some serious cricket.
Give people a sense, maybe particularly those watching on from the Netherlands or Nepal or other parts of the cricketing world, about Scottish cricket. There's a huge history and heritage and culture of it here. A thriving club scene that continues to thrive.
It does. It's one of these pastimes, I suppose, in Scotland that people don't really know about. It's a little bit niche and underground, but I suppose if you visit most small towns and upwards, you'll find cricket clubs nestled. You'll find cricket in pockets in Fife. Obviously, everyone is well aware of the tale of Fruchi.
Tell
who-
people about that if you don't know about it.
So Fruchi were the winners of the Village Cup way back in, I think it was 1985.
And that's for the entire the United Kingdom,
yeah.
not just Scotland.
Exactly. Famously won at Lords on that sunny day. There's a great photo of them in the kilts standing outside
Outside the pavilion.
Yeah, outside the Lords. So yeah, so you'll find little pockets like that where all it would take was perhaps a PE teacher who had an interest in cricket, or perhaps come from England, perhaps, and just kind of galvanised villages, I suppose.
At the top level of the Scottish club game, it's based around sort of, is it fair to say, three senior leagues: the East Premier League, the West Premiership, and the North East Championship. They're the kind of the peaks of the top level, and everyone comes together for the Scottish Cup.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, you'll have the East Prem and West Prem. Those are our Premier Leagues, and the Strathmore Union or the North East Championship will feed into the East Prem. So the winners of that will play the best within the Eastern Championship, and then they'll be promoted into Eastern Prem. So this year it was Edinburgh South who have come on board.
Rushed for pace, Finlay McCreath this time. Important overs these ones, because again, Max O'Dowd is using up his allocation of his primary two quicks in Van Meekeren and Klein. Where are the real hubs of the game? Obviously, the biggest cities in the country are Edinburgh and Glasgow, the 5 ODI grounds. 2 of them are there. We're at one of them here, just outside Dundee, up to his history and the amazing beauty of the Aberdeen ground as well. And then also Ayr, that gets used reasonably often. But there's 5 venues that have international status here in Scotland. What are the real hubs on top of that?
Yeah, it's transient populations. That's where a lot of the players will come
Stirling,
in
of
from.
course, as well.
Yeah,
there,
yeah, one of the few with 2 squares. So Stirling has hosted the finals day for the T20s lately, both the female on the women's side on the Saturday and the men's on the Sunday. I think it's the weekend of 7th and 8th of August this year. The finals day will be played, and that's another kind of pocket of cricket and history. Other areas as well in Aberdeen. Aberdeen did very well during the oil boom of the 80s, where people were flooding to the city for work, and that brought about an increase in cricket, where the grades, so Aberdeen grades, I think once upon a time per head had the most cricket clubs. I think that mean it was across the world, but unfortunately with the downturn in oil, there isn't so much cricket being played up in Aberdeen, I think.
In terms of the popularity of the sport in the country, though, like, it's a little known fact, there's more cricketers in the country than there are rugby players. Is that right?
Yeah, it's another one of these, I don't know what you'd say, anomalies. I think just the nature of cricketers, we don't seem to shout about it as much. We don't seem to be as vocal. And I spoke on the pod recently, almost embarrassingly saying you were off to cricket at the weekend. You were the same in Ireland as well, yeah.
Very similar. And look, I think that's something that's continued to evolve and grow, and there's now a very proud culture of Irish cricket. You'd be kind of 20 years ago, when 30 years ago now, when the Troubles were still in progress and all the tensions between Ireland and England. Luckily, they've now completely eased to a point whereby really the only rivalry we have is on the sporting field. And I know that Scotland absolutely adore beating England at anything, as do Ireland. And indeed, the Dutch, you look at their pedigree of having beaten England twice in T20 World Cups too. Tell us about where the game is at then for the national teams. Let's start with the men, but I want to talk to you about the women as well. It's not quite a transition phase for the Scottish side, but obviously, likes of Kyle Coates and Callum McLeod, they're kind of relatively long gone now. It's been a couple of years since both have taken their retirements. Richie Barrington continued to excel, and by all accounts is not allowed to retire. There's a dance down the track, and McCreath gets away with that. You have to be careful of the outside edge. There's a crop of younger players coming through, though, and you always are going to balance and have to budget for the sort of county players' availability, which can come in and out. Neither of these two sides ever use it as an excuse, but where do you kind of assess as to how the reigning champions of this league? This one's slashed away. Baresi's going to have a long, long chase down to that corner. I think this one might get to the rope. Not quite. They may well run 4 here. Oh, they thought about it, but they'll end up with just 3. So Wesley Baresi gets the 41-year-old legs moving to save a run. Great work from him. Where's the side at? Where are the reigning champion Scotland at right now?
I thought Wesley was going to take one of those seats as he went around it.
He'd have deserved it.
I think, like you spoke of Kyle and Callum. I can talk about them in first name terms. Both passing their kind of careers on, and have just managed to find a diamond really in Brandon McMullen, who's just replaced those runs, because I think that was the big question, was who was going to fill these sizable boots. And we were lucky, obviously, finding Brad McMullen. I think there's a conveyor belt there just now of talent that's lining up, and Finlay McCreath has been given his chance. Looking at Liam Naylor as well.
Are Scotland happy with where they are in this table, though? Like, this league is incredibly competitive, isn't it?
Just so competitive. We looked at it recently, and with Scotland winning the last 2 ODIs in the Netherlands by defeating the Netherlands and the UAE, it kind of propelled them back up into the upper half of the table, and it's imperative that we remain in that upper half. We thought we were going to have an extra win against Nepal, and they pulled us right back. So this game is really important, and we always speak about it, but in the associate game, every game's important.
And that is the beauty, and I suppose the ruthless nature of it, isn't it? That there's no such thing as a game that doesn't have meaning or context. Okay, in this league's case, it's over a 3-year cycle. You can have a bad series, and you can correct that. But if you look at the UAE's position, they're kind of staring down the barrel very ominously of most likely finishing 7th or 8th. As Roelof van der Merwe comes into the attack for the first time today. Spin from both ends, so Aded will keep some overs of Van Maker and back. With Nepal winning those 2 games, you expected that if they could have won 2 from 4 here before the start of this tour, they'd have been quite happy. Very difficult tour to come and play 2 traditional European giants of associate cricket, Scotland and Netherlands, in these conditions. But they've already won 2. They'll probably be disappointed if they only win 2, the way they're playing. Dominated the Dutch 2 days ago. With them coming up, all of a sudden that top 7 now, they've got so many games in hand. We could be in for, you almost think it's going to go all the way to the very final series in December 2026, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously the point with Stuart Law with Nepal, it seems to you usually get that initial boost of a new coach coming on
The bounce.
board. Yeah, exactly.
The new coach bounce.
Don't know if it's such a thing in cricket, but they certainly speak about it in football, don't they? There's a new kind of change at the top often brings about an upsurge in results, and yeah, Nepal they'll be licking their lips, looking forward to these next 2 games. Imagine coming away from an away series of 4 victories and being bottom of the table. It propels them
At the
straight
time,
up there.
yeah, it would be absolutely phenomenal. It's the outside edge. He's always in the contest, is the Bulldog, Roelof van der Merwe. Great cricketer and character to watch. 40 years young, Baresi 41. Life in the old dogs yet.
Absolutely. He's such an animated cricketer as well. He's great to watch, isn't he?
He played down the ground by McCreath. I know you watch a huge amount of it. It's rare I don't get a message from you guys during not just a Scotland game, but one of the other games as well. What do you love about this league in particular most, not just associate cricket?
Just exactly. I was going to actually touch on it in our last little burst. There was like the UAE are bottom, but they beat us in Holland, and then we've come up against Nepal here, and they've managed to win on the last ball.
And a different format, but they just beat the Bangladesh side 2-1 in a T20I series straight after that tour.
It's just, the competitiveness of it and the ability of teams to beat each other keeps everyone interested in it. Again, it's one of those things about shouting it from the rooftops, like these games are competitive, these games can go either way. Even today, the toss has been important. And getting out on the fresh wicket bowling early when the ball's probably doing quite a lot in the morning.
Is it that unpredictability that really adds to the beauty of it and makes it such a joy to watch and to cover?
It's got to be. I was round speaking to some people in the crowd. There's a couple of guys here that come up from London off the back of the Nepal game. They watched the Nepal game and they thought, why not
Gotta go get
travel up
involved
and
in
watch
that.
it? Yeah,
Friday, sunshine.
absolutely.
Maybe find a beverage.
Yeah, well, they were having.
They were already
Yeah.
already on them.
So yeah.
Arjan Dutt's going to continue. He's come into the side, and big difference with Arjan Dutt's appearance last month. It was at the VRA grounds. He bowled 9 overs that went for 68. Munsey in particular took him apart, although he was lucky to survive him early. Now the off spinner's getting turn and bounce, and we said we felt that the Dutch were 50, 60 short the other day. We thought they needed at least 260, 270. They only ended up with 220 odd. Might be different today. If Scotland can get 230, 240, could have a real contest in their hands.
I think so. I think as well, the Dutch seem to be very top heavy in their batting order. There'll be pressure at the top, and if Scotland can take early wickets, and I just watched that delivery there from that turn and bounce. Yeah, real turn and bounce.
Can you give us a bit more about the Scottish club game at the moment? You spoke about Liam Naylor, who's having a wonderful time of things. Finlay McCreath, it wasn't just that tour of Zimbabwe that's kind of helped force his way in, but he's been piling on the runs domestically. Is there still a lot of strength and depth in the Scottish club game, and are there a number of players who would be kind of ready and raring to go? You've got the curious case of Michael English, of course. One international match is a century to his name. There's lots of good young talent coming through still.
Yeah, I'd say we've probably lost numbers of players, and I'd say that's maybe recreational players, but I'd say there still is a good nucleus of what you would call
big appeal. In fact, I think he might have bowled him. He's chopped it on, excuse me. And now Scotland are in real trouble. Might have been the inside edge, was it, from Matthew Cross? 4 dots built up the pressure. He missed out on the poor delivery, the previous one. Oh, it is an inside edge. It just drags back onto middle stump. And Dutt roars with delight. What a change. They'll say they have picked the right team for the conditions. Cross will be disappointed with that innings. He's gone for 8. 88 for 5. Real trouble here for Scotland.
absolutely is desperate for some consolidation here and just regularly losing wickets here. I'm afraid Scotland are really up against it. Hopefully, Michael Leask can come out here and have one of these days, which he's very capable of having.
Yeah, he very much is, and it kind of feels like the kind of day where it could be the man from this neck of the woods. I know he's originally from Aberdeen, but he's still playing here at this ground, isn't he, for sure?
Yeah, still is club cricket here, Michael.
सम्राट बात कर रहा हूँ। ये मैच का विनर मैंने अपने टेलीग्राम पर दे दिया है, लंबी भी दे दी है, 10 ओवर का सेशन भी दे दिया है, सब कुछ अपने टेलीग्राम पर दे दिया है। 20 ओवर का भी सेशन करेंगे, 30 ओवर का भी करेंगे, लंबी भी करेंगे, सब कुछ अपने टेलीग्राम पे करेंगे। लिंक कमेंट बॉक्स में है। कमेंट बॉक्स में देखो, ब्लू कलर का टेलीग्राम का लिंक आपको दिख जाएगा। ये मैच की सारी एंट्री हम टेलीग्राम पर दे रहे हैं और 10 ओवर का दे दिया, लंबी दे दी, मैच विनर दे दिया। अब सारे सेशन आपको टेलीग्राम पर मिलेंगे। लिंक कमेंट बॉक्स में है ब्लू कलर का। तो गलती मत करना, ये मैच में गलती करोगे तो हारोगे, सिंपल सी बात है। श्योर रिपोर्ट चाहिए हमारे टेलीग्राम पर, टोटल फ्री सेवा। सम्राट
Netherlands and Scotland coming together with the Highlanders and the Seafarers and these evocatively named sides, trying to get the sort of best 40 players between the two countries, or sorry, 20 from each really. Some more regular cricket. Is that kind of gone for the foreseeable at the moment?
I think so. I don't even know it's on the priority list for Cricket Scotland at this juncture.
Michael Leask only tends to play in one manner. All Irish fans will remember his remarkable counter-attacking knock and Bulawayo that put the final nail in the Irish side's qualification chances at the last 50-over qualifier. 20 have been bowled. The score is 88 for 5. I do have to call out one thing that people won't be able to see at home here. The difference in our attire. I'm not talking sartorially here. I'm talking in terms of the scale of clothing worn. Are you mad in Scotland?
I did. It's funny enough, actually. It's my granddad's 89th birthday day. I popped in to see him.
Big
And
shout out to him.
yeah, and he couldn't believe what I was wearing. So yeah, for the sports fans out
Yeah.
there, I'm in shorts today, and Lenny's in
Help
his
करो यार.
bubble hat and scarf.
Shorts, ankle socks. I feel cold next to you here. I've got, what have I got? 5 layers on top, and I did have a couple wrapped around my legs a moment ago as well, but the sunshine's come out now. How much of a challenge is that here in Scotland? The weather, it's the same in Ireland, isn't it? Do you get a lot of games washed out? Does it kind of can dampen the spirits sometimes?
Yeah, we've to be fair, the east coast of Scotland, which is kind of a bit of a running joke, seems to get the better of the share. It doesn't have the prevailing wind, so it seems to get a little bit more drier this side of the country. Whereas in the west, obviously the wind blows from a westerly, southwesterly direction, and they get the water first. Basically, they have the rain
This has
blowing in
been
from the Atlantic.
explained to me before, isn't it?
Yeah.
The over the far side where you've got air and you know. Karen Ryan, where I would have landed on my ferry and all that sort of stuff. And there's also, is there a few mountains there or something that over that way, and it all dumps there, and then actually kind of Aberdeen and Dundee can be quite dry, can't they?
That's right. Yeah, but I think there's some kind of statistic that Aberdeen is the sunniest city in the UK, and it benefits from this. I think it's the mid-Atlantic drift is what they call the prevailing wind.
Sunniest city in the UK.
Apparently so.
Are you calling Cornwall a republic then, or something? UK's not involved.
Yeah, they're excluded. No, they had. I think I remember there's